All right, disclaimer. The type of philosophy that I push, that I believe in regarding seduction is not for everybody. Actually, it's not for most people. So if you don't want to hear something new and you want to hear the old fashioned tricks and you want to go and find some lines to pull girls and do all of that, pick up lines, and that this is not it. Here we talk about the human dynamic, right? The how do you become attractive? How do you seduce? And a lot of topics that are within this range have a lot of cliches and they have a lot of, you know, experts out there telling you the same thing over and over again. Ignore her. Don't text her. Pull back. Act nonchalant. Don't care. Detach. Blah, blah, blah. And sounds great, if you're like a Buddhist monk and you can live in the mountains and detach and go live in a cave and meditate, 48 hours a day, then that that's amazing. But as human beings, most of us that are just normal, average human beings, we crave attention. We love attention. We love being around people. We like having fun. We like being loved, taken care of. We like connection. We like companionship. It's just normal. So if you feel any of those feelings, you're not crazy. You're actually pretty normal. This is where it goes south. This whole thing about don't text her, leave her alone, ignore her, act like you don't care, blah, blah, blah. All of that, if it's not really how you feel, it's just a game, it's a trick, it's not anything long term. That's like Ozempic to people trying to lose weight. It's like, yeah, you're going to see some quick results that you don't enjoy. And if that's what you want, then go ahead and do that. But if you really want fulfillment, if you really want to just love life and, just feel love and just have a great time everywhere you go with whoever you go, then you have to really just be real with that. And once you accept that, then you're not worried about it. And another part of this is, they say, well, don't beg her. If she don't want you, leave her alone. And I think it's on a case by case basis. I got to say that I have begged and I have gotten what I begged for. Now, was it pretty? Was it was it something dignified? I don't know. But hey, if sometimes winning is not pretty. And not every time you're going to win with grace. Sometimes you just scrape by and end up winning. But W is a W. Now, what's the difference here between being persistent and begging? And I think that that's where the distinction is. I think that if you want to ignore her, do so out of you wanting to ignore her, not out of if I ignore her, I'll get this outcome. Because how can you even spend that much time thinking about that? So if I don't apply or talk to girl, like I'm not even thinking about it. Like it's just not I'm not doing it out of, I don't want to talk to her. I'm busy over here, or I'm doing something else. So I'm not worried about that. And when you are begging, that's when in your heart, you ain't got a chance, right? But you still beg, right? You still ask for something you're not going to get, especially if you're not getting any kind of responses or any response, then just take that L and go over there to the next one. Now, this is where begging and persistence are different. Persistence is when, Aaliyah, the singer, rest in peace, she had a great song that she gave us the key. She said, if at first you don't succeed, dust yourself off and try again. And I don't know what she was talking about. I always took it as with her, right? So like if you try to get with her and she gives you the cold shoulder or you don't, then it's cool. Just try again. But dust yourself off. That means don't just from the dirt try to grab on her leg. Get back up and, try again. Try again in a stronger, better way. That's the difference between persistence. That you're not just please, 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 please. That's begging. Doing the same thing over and over again, the same plea, the same question, the same preposition. When you are persistent, every angle is new. So you hit her with this, oh, that didn't work. You hit her with this now. Well, that didn't work. Oh, well, I'm gonna hit with this. And then sometimes women that are intelligent, everybody is intelligent, but I'm talking about, those really smart, intuitive women, they see something in that persistence because they see, wait a minute, this isn't your normal average begging guy. Yet he's not that other guy trying to be so cool that he'll just walk away. I'm special enough that he still is, lingering around, yet his approaches are very adjustable. They're adaptable. That says so much to a woman. If you are this kind of person that you can adapt, you most likely will be a great provider. You most likely get fired from a job and get another one. You most likely, there's some problems in the home. You probably can fix those because you're adaptable. You're showing your adaptability through your persistence. The thing about persistence is that if you're not willing to not never give up, that persistence, it comes as fake, right? It's about the long-term game. It's the long-term vision of, if at first I don't succeed, I'm going to dust myself off and try again, but I might wait a year. It's like if you are too desperate that you need instant gratification, it's not going to work. Persistence is where, you might need 3, 4 years. You might need her to go through a couple of relationships before your persistence pays off, right? And if you're not willing to put in that long-term work, then it's never going to work. You're going to fall into that begging category. It's kind of like when you go to college and you're a freshman. I mean, you got 4 years or more ahead of you, and you just got to go every class by class, and this semester, and deal with all of the things that happen throughout these years. That's a long time for you to graduate, but you go in with the understanding that it's going to take that effort. It's going to take that time. And next thing you know, time flies by and you graduate. The same thing with a woman that's worth it to you. It may take 4 years. And if you're willing to put in that time, eventually you are more likely to succeed than not. If you walk away, you're not going to succeed. And yeah, you may see it as a win. I see it as in either she wasn't that important or you just didn't want to deal with the uncomfort of rejection, right? There's different reasons why we do what we do. Speaking of human dynamics, if you're not willing to put in that long-term work on anything in life, especially if there's a woman that you want, then is it really worth it at the end of the day, right? Do you want the low hanging fruit? Because you can get that, right? You can get the low hanging fruit. You can get the fruit that just falls off the tree right in your hand. But there's something about just that long term persistence. When you finally win, it just feels different. It's a different kind of win. It's an accomplishment rather than luck or circumstances or whatever, that when it's easy, it loses that value a little bit. And I think that long term persistence gives it a higher value. That may be just inflation, right? Or deflation, because maybe when you get there after all the persistence and you realize that it's not what I thought it would be, it actually teaches you another lesson that what we think is not necessarily what is true. We have perceptions and we think certain things and we imagine and we create stories in our head that end up being nothing but stories. And when you really go into that fairy tale and you break it down and you're in reality, you're in there, you can see that, wait, this was all in my head. And this probably a lot of times more disappointment than not because the expectations are not what you created in your head. However, there are exceptions where the persistence pays off and what you expected is even better than you expected. And those are really special circumstances that I believe happen very few in a lifetime. And if you experience that, one, quiz yourself, make sure that you're not creating another story in order to, a lot of people that pay, something, money for something that doesn't cost that, like they'll pay, $50 for something that costs $2. And when they realize that, oh man, I paid 50 for the same thing over there that's two, they try to give this $50 thing, which is the same thing as a $2 thing, but to try to give it more value so they don't feel like they're lost. Oh no, but this one is blah, blah, blah. No, you just didn't do your research and you didn't know that that same brand, that same thing is $2 in Amazon and you bought it over here at some store for 50. So that you got to take that loss. Sometimes, people just want to act like they made a great investment, so they're gonna give it that value. Same thing with this. When you put in that persistence and you in that long game and you finally end up taking some wins, what happens is you tend to try to mask disappointment with well, it is worth it. Right. You have to be really, really be honest. And like I said, like you may find exceptions, but most of the time you find out that human beings are human beings no matter if it's now or 4 years later. So there's a disappointment from the story that you created because the reason that you even were persistent in the first place is because the story that you told yourself gave you something that this person that you think that it could give you. And when you get there, you realize that it's not true. And you don't want to be like, man, I just wasted all this time trying to get here. And now I realize that I don't even want to be here. But you needed to go through that journey. So I, like I said, the philosophy that I believe is my experience in my reality. And obviously, I've read many, many books, everything, that I could get my hands on. I'm still reading. I'm constantly reading, researching. I love human dynamics and that interaction. But a lot of it, most of it, if not all of it, comes from my application of what I know, my experience. And that has been my experience. It's more, I'm not afraid to beg. I'm just persistent. I don't beg. Right. But the begging part is an ego thing. It's thinking that, oh, you know, I deserve better. I like everybody's a human being. And when you come down from that ego cloud, it's not really begging because you really are only persistent with the ones you want. You're not begging the ones that you can get, and you're not begging the ones you don't want. It's the ones you want. And there's nothing wrong with that. It's like, you want a job, right? You go out there and try to get the job. And sometimes you may need to apply 2 or 3 times to get the job if you really want that job. And then you get to that job and a month later you're like, ah, man, I don't even like working here. That's life. That's in everything you do is we are constantly in a search for things that are not going to provide what we already have. Because when you start looking at it even deeper than that, you're persistent. Your persistence comes from you trying to look for an external person to feel something that fulfills something that you need. And sometimes you may get someone that temporarily feel, at least distracts you from what you really need. And when I'm not talking about emotionally or any of that, it could be emotionally, but meaning when you are being persistent and you really question yourself and you go, why am I persistent with this person? Why do I continue to spend this energy in trying to attract this person, regardless of if you win or not? Is that you're going to find out that that person in your mind, you think they're going to provide you something that you already have because you got to realize it's no one's responsibility to make you feel happy, fulfilled, love. It's no one's responsibility. So there's no person out there that if you don't feel that, if you're depressed, if you feel lonely, if you feel that's your responsibility to take care of that. You cannot go searching for someone to fill that void. If you're not happy with yourself, no one else is going to make you feel happy. So all you're going to do is just probably pass your unhappiness to them. I suggest that when you feel the need for external anything, persons, things, when you need something that you don't already have, to question yourself, like, why this person? And then if you really even go even deeper, deeper, deeper than that, and you start looking at that person and you see what could be some of the qualities that you think are going to feel something in you. And those probably are the qualities that you are lacking within you. So whatever you are attracted to that person is what you're missing in you. And when you start working on that and you go, okay, well, let me make myself happy. Let me take those qualities and let me give those qualities. Let me embrace, let me take over those qualities and make them part of me as well. And you start realizing that that person is not as important as you thought they were because you are already fulfilling the things that you thought that person was going to give you. So it goes deep. Like I said, like this isn't pickup lines. This is understanding yourself, understanding the human biology of things as well, because there's a biological factor in all of this. I mean, we all are biological beings, and there's pheromones, there's hormones, there are all kinds of chemicals within our bodies, serotonin and norepinephrine, and you can have all of these things, and dopamine and all of these things, that if you are having an imbalance within you, you could start looking for those things in someone else. And I believe that's a huge mistake, because eventually that person is going to run out, or that person, that effect won't be taking effect in you anymore. And you're going to go back to that state of lacking those things. So study yourself, study yourself. That's the first thing. And once you do and you feel pretty good about yourself, you can make yourself happy. You don't need anyone, but you just, you want companionship or whatever it is, then don't be afraid to be persistent. Don't worry about what people tell you. Don't text her. You want to text her. Who cares? If she likes you, she's going to text you back. And if she don't, maybe she's playing games. Who cares? Take someone else. Don't get stuck. You can be persistent, but don't get stuck. Just being persistent and hitting yourself against that wall. Maybe you just walk a little bit this way. You can go around the wall, and you don't have to keep banging your head against that wall. You can just go around. Maybe you go that way, and it's like, oh, there's a door over here. Be persistent, but be smart about your persistence. And you don't have to be persistent with just like her, right? Because that's what happens too, is that then you become obsessive over being persistent over one person. You really have to have friends, and you have to have other people that you can focus your energy and attention. Don't don't become obsessive. That's the thing. Don't There's a difference too between being persistent and being obsessed, and being obsessive and sometimes compulsive. Know yourself. I mean, there's no one is going to be able to give you that, who you are. If you're being obsessive, you feel it. There's a feeling. I've been there. I've been, where there's an obsession, right? Like the person then gets in your head, and this an obsession, and then there's also compulsions, right? Like, oh man, like I'm not gonna text her, and bam, 2 seconds later you text her, like you can't even help it. So there's a thin line between just being persistent and just being compulsive and obsessive, and then there's a difference between being persistent. Persistence is classy, and there's a difference between classy and begging. Begging is poor taste, right? Begging is, like it's not attractive. Persistence is attractive. You make people feel special when you're persistent. Again, there's a very thin line between begging, persistence, and obsession. So know that line and do all of this after you know that you are pursuing this because you are happy. And even if you didn't get it, you're okay with the outcome. If someone needs to watch this, share this, because, we got to open these conversations up beyond the pickup lines and playing games and tricks. And also, if you haven't subscribed, make sure you do so. Till next time. Peace.